Let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to, I don't know what even to call this. There's like nothing. Fireside chat? No, I think that one was used. Special edition in the garage. My wife's freezing her ass. Garage talks. Usually there's a cigar involved, but I'm told I can't have that. Usually there's beer involved, but it's Lent, so I can't have that.
Well, that's why you can't have the cigar either.
That's not. I am still smoking cigars during Lent.
Only on Monday, I thought.
Well, still, we are here to talk about something special. Who are we here with? You might want to get a little bit closer if you can, because sometimes you talk quiet.
But I moved away from the heater.
That's fair. And fine. All right. Introduce yourself.
Hello. Homeschool mama here.
So why are we here, homeschool mama, as she kills the heater?
I'm not killing the heater. I'm moving it closer. We are here to talk about the CPL.
And why are we here to talk about the CPL? What does CPL stand for?
Concealed Pistol License.
Ooh, you remember the pistol.
Well, there's also the CWL, right? Or
Yep.
CWP, Concealed Weapons Permit.
Yep.
Which I think includes knives, but that's not what we have.
Yeah, that's not what we have. Knives and shotguns.
What?
Shotguns and rifles, if you
Seriously?
Yeah.
How do you
carry
conceal
those.
that?
Short barrel.
I think you have to be taller than
SRB.
me.
SRB. Short barrel rifle. So anyway, yes, we are here talking about. Then why are we talking about?
Oh, well,
CPLs.
we were both due for our new license, which means you have to spend 3 hours of range practice and research and like reviewing the laws and all that joyful stuff of re-education or continuing education. That'd be continuing education.
Continuing education.
Sometimes it's re-education if they change them.
If they change them. Yeah, within so many days of you renewing your license, you need to review all the laws and go out to the range. So we went out to the range, put a bunch of holes in paper. Then we went and reviewed. The tricky part is the review process. It's not like there's really a refresher class you have to take. You basically just have to certify that, yes, I have read or spent 3 hours studying Michigan law. This is a newer provision they kind of came out with, again, quote unquote, newer provision, where you got to spend so many hours studying the law, studying the precedent, understanding what it is.
Well, and this is the provision that when we originally got our CPLs in 2013, 2014?
13, I think.
When we originally got our CPLs, this was already law. Like, this was already how it was done.
Yep.
But it had been recently changed, like, within a couple of years, I think.
Yeah, so that you have to do, because we were, at the time, you didn't really have to do much to recertify, just go to the range, spend an hour at the range plinking. And it wasn't until recently where they added this 3 hour review.
And it says an hour, it doesn't mean, at least from my understanding, it's an hour in that 3 years. It doesn't have to be right when you recertify. You have
Nope,
to say
that's months before. That's why it's like 3 months or 6 months before you recertify. You have to study the law and go to the range. I believe it's 3 months before is what we're reading.
I think it's 6 because that's when they send you the letter.
It could be. But yeah, it's not like it's not like us doing this now counts for in 5 years when we recertify again.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do is we decided to kind of talk about, now this video will not be 3 hours long, thank God.
I like to talk to you for 3 hours sometimes.
Yeah, that would be past midnight and I'll definitely need a cigar. But we're going to talk about what we kind of looked at. I guess we'll show this off. This is the interesting, we're pointed towards this by, what's the name of the video? It's Lehto, Bill Lehto.
Bill Lehto? Yeah,
Lehto.
Bill Lehto.
So if any guys don't know, we'll put a link inside the video and inside the credits. There is a lawyer here in Michigan. He's actually in the Upper Peninsula too.
He's an author.
Loves cars. loves hearing his own voice. He,
I love his like short minutes, his Lehto minutes or whatever.
Lehto
They're
minutes.
quick. They're quick videos about the law and kind of like some of it's obscure law.
Yep. So he's a lawyer who puts out a lot of resources. He did a video and actually referenced this document. This document is actually from 2010, but everything I've researched shows that this is pretty much the most up-to-date the state's put out. We'll also put a link for this document. It's really nice. It's hard to see on my printed copy, but you can see some of the letters are supposed to be blue. We're apparently running out of some ink or something's jammed up. You can actually click on it, and besides reading the summary, you can read the full statute. So
All the links pop open, it's a lot to read.
yeah, it does take about 3 hours worth of reading, reviewing, and whatnot. So we spent our due diligence making sure that we went through and reviewed everything and understood stuff. What we're going to kind of do is go over different sections and talk about firearms kind of in general. So maybe start before we get too technical. Again, we're not lawyers in any way, shape, or form. We're going off basically what this paper says. This is not legal advice. This is kind of just if we ever get called out, questioned as to whether or not we did our homework. This is kind of a video to show, yes, we did our homework. And also, I kind of encourage both of us to do this because the current administration may be a little bit more strict on some of their enforcements. So extra proof, taking those extra steps to show that you went above and beyond, I believe is necessary in our current political climate.
But when you're talking about guns, it's always a good idea to go that little extra step anyway.
True story. So, what do you really want to start? Maybe we should start saying all legal and technical. What is your concealed carry weapon?
Well, I have two.
Two, yes you do.
So I have two. My first one that was not originally for concealed carry. I got it because I wanted a handgun, and it's a Kel-Tec 9mm, which is nice.
It's nice.
I like it, but it has a 3-pound trigger pull, so
It's more like an 8-pound trigger pull.
Yeah, it's really hard to pull the trigger. And I still liked it regardless of that, but it's also a little big for my hand.
Yep.
Like I have kind of small hands. I'm kind of happy I can finally wear my wedding ring again, and that's only a 4.5, so my hands are small. And so the 9mm was a little big. So then when we decided to take our CPL course, I wanted something smaller, so I got a Smith & Wesson 380 ACP, the Bodyguard, nice laser pointer, which is not my favorite thing on it, actually.
Like a selling feature.
Yeah, I don't actually care for it, but I like the Bodyguard, the gun itself. I don't care for the laser pointer feature. I thought I would. I really thought that would be like a yes, but no, it's not for me. So that was my go-to concealed carry, but I am still looking for a really great holster for it, because
the holster has been the problem.
that's been a problem because it is so small. It fits in my hand nicely. I don't have it to show you, but it stays like pretty much in the palm of my hand, so it's a comfortable fit for me and for my small size. But finding a holster has been challenging. There's a lot of hip holsters, and if I wore a belt all the time, the hip holsters would be fine.
Yep.
But I don't wear a belt that often, and I do have, a lot of kids, so I don't like a gun down low on my hip, and I'm short, so down low on my hip is right about the height of, a 3 to 7-year-old. So I don't feel comfortable carrying it like that, and I would love to find a like a shoulder holster or a crossover rig, but I haven't yet. I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna have to make my own somehow, but
something, right?
I do have a couple of under the clothes ones that are nice, that are a little a little higher than hip, but so yeah, those are the two I carry concealed. I don't usually carry the 9mm though.
No. Actually, I carry the 9mm more than you do now.
Yeah.
The first gun I got for concealed carry was a Taurus 357 snub nose. I was really in a revolver phase. I wanted the reliability of it. I actually liked the feel, but
It's pretty.
it is a very pretty 357 is a very pretty gun. It was a little bit of a trick though. The one I tried out in a friend of mine had one. I tried his out and it had a bigger grip, so it fit my hand better. The one I bought actually ended up having a smaller grip. It was made for concealed carry, so a little bit smaller. It doesn't fit my hand great. I can still shoot it just fine. But then I kind of realized that having more than, the 5 rounds that are in the 357 might be needed. So again, I was carrying the 9mm for a while, but again, that gun, I have abnormally big hands, so I can only fit 3 fingers on the grip. So 1 on the trigger and then 2 actually on the grip. The third one kind of had to hang there. So actually, I carry a full frame 9mm or a 45 1911. One of my favorite guns, actually, to concealed carry. Nice. I do have a hip holster for it. I also do have a shoulder holster for it. Luckily, up here in the winter, that's very easily concealed. Although a lot of times I do open carry as well. But again, you need your concealed carry once you enter a vehicle with it. So those are probably the go-to is either I do the Caltech, but most of the time it's the full frame 45 ACP 1911. Which again, I'm really good with that gun. Very accurate, fits my hand great.
Why does Charles Daly stand out in my head?
Because that's the Charles Daly
it's a
1911. It's not
yeah.
a Colt or a Kimber, and it's a full frame, so it's not a snubby or a compact version. Again, I just really enjoy the gun. So.
And I would not have gotten the Caltech. I would have gotten the. Was it a Springfield?
There's a Springfield
Auto, but there was nowhere I could buy them at the time. We couldn't find it, so that's why I ended up with the Caltech. But the Caltech is still a beautiful
beautiful
weapon.
gun.
But it's a little bit harder. I think harder to use than some other handguns we've had.
All right, well, that's just because the trigger pull's really, really tight, but that's the only safety on the gun. And
yeah, and I don't like that it's the only safety on the gun, so that doesn't help. But
yep. All right, well, let's get started on some of these. So, won't read them verbatim. Kind of just pick and choose some little facts here again from the fact sheet. Stuff to know about the Michigan carry. First and foremost, yes, you do need a license to carry concealed in Michigan. That's one of the big ones. We are now, though, a shall issue state. So we used to, you had to apply and you had to show cause and reason for having a CPL. So not everyone could get one. And they found that a lot of people were just being blanketed, denied a CPL. My dad had one all growing up, but that dealt because of his job and the increased risk of having people maybe be a little upsets with him. So he had one all. I didn't know that there was a difference between shall issue and may issue, but we used to be a may issue. Now we shall issue. We have to issue a license. You just have to take some coursework and submit some applications and whatnot, and you're good to go. So yes, open carry, you can still do that legally.
Okay, go back though. It's not just a shall issue. It's a shall issue, but you still do have to meet those conditions. You still have to pass the background checks. You still have to take the class, and the class has to be certified in so long, and it has to include the range time and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So even though it's a shell issue, it's easy to get. You do still have to.
There's still hoops. It still costs money. It still is
It's not-
background checks. True. We're not constitutional carry. If you guys know the difference, constitutional carry means you can just carry. No permits, no hoops, just have a gun on you. I did find it kind of interesting on this paper. It's not that it's legal. There's not a law that makes it legal to open carry. There's just no laws that prevent it or prohibit it. I found that kind of interesting. I figured there'd actually be a law saying, Michigan residents are legally allowed to open carry a firearm. There just is no law that prohibits it.
I think that's also township and city based, isn't it?
That's probably why some townships and cities can actually pass ordinances against it for open and open carry. So here you want to do the part. So let's go talk about concealed carry. Where can and can we not conceal carry?
Oh, where we can and cannot conceal carry. So obviously, no schools ever. You cannot conceal carry at a school, a church, any place where there's over 250 people, I believe. Any place where there's alcohol is the primary sales item. So if you go into a restaurant and they happen to sell alcohol, but most of their sales, and this would be hard, like
this would be very hard up here.
This would be very hard because like Applebee's sells alcohol and a lot of food, so it could be hard to like determine this. But so as long as most of their revenue comes from food sales, you can carry.
It's reasonable to consider 51% of their revenue comes from food sales.
Yes. So, and I think that would, like, reasonably, that would depend on the time of day sometimes. But, so that one can be tricky.
Yeah, that one's really tricky.
And then.
Now, can you have a beer and carry concealed?
No.
Just,
I was like, why would you ask that? No,
so
of course
you cannot,
not.
I mean, it's whether or not they do
Now-
have 51% or not, you can't have a beer.
You absolutely cannot have alcohol in your system or on your person.
Yep.
You can't have an open container of alcohol and have a weapon, and that's just good practice.
That's
Like,
good practice.
It doesn't matter concealed or not. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
drinking and then have a weapon.
Correct.
Obviously, no banks,
You
no credit unions, churches. I think I said, but I'm not sure. Places of worship. I think there's a if a pastor or something requests.
that's
or
in the next section your
allows.
thumb is on right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so if some of these have exceptions, so then like your pastor or priest can actually give you permission to conceal carry. They can sign a letter saying, yes, I authorize you to conceal carry. A lot of that has to do with security. So like you can hire someone to sit in your bank with a gun concealed, and they are quote unquote security. They're, the large events. You can have someone who you designate as security have a concealed firearm. So there are some loopholes around it.
Well, and this one's a little confusing because it specifically says the above section does not apply to any of the following. And then it says a person with a valid concealed pistol license, CPL issued by any state.
By other states, yeah.
By any state. So if you have a CPL issued by any state, the way it's written is confusing.
Yeah. And it's inferred that's from outside, so from another state.
So, but a theater, of course, sports arena, daycare center, hospitals are big ones. But again, if you're hired as security for any of those places, it doesn't apply. And if you're a peace officer, so a police officer, FBI, you could carry in those locations. And then if you have the permission, I think you were.
Yeah, the big one is if you get permission to carry. So I can definitely see in some of these settings where maybe you have a doctor who's gotten threats against their life and they're at the hospital, you let them carry. I know a few places, especially the public buildings, they'll let their employees carry up into their desk. And then once they get to their desk, they have lock boxes. So They can't carry in the building, but they can bring their firearm into the building as long as it's to their desk. And once they get to their desk, they lock it up. I've talked to a few people who work in public buildings, and that's the understanding. So yeah, there are some exceptions to that, the no-go zones, but by and large, those are the big ones where you cannot.
You cannot carry concealed.
Can't carry concealed, correct.
But if you have a CPL, some of these places you can carry open.
Yeah. So if you have a CPL, you can do open carry.
And it's important to note that you don't have to carry concealed. If you have a CPL, it doesn't have to be carry concealed. It's an option to carry it concealed. If you don't have a CPL, you can't carry concealed.
Can't carry concealed. Correct. You need that magic piece of paper. And
always look for signs. Private property owners can say you can't carry on their property. And that's their right. It's private property. Stores, I know, I think Walmart now has signage.
Walmart took it down.
Did they?
Myers does not let you open carry. They'll let you conceal carry now. It was no firearms at all.
So, and I think that depends per store. I think each store can set their own. I don't know for sure, because honestly, we don't go a lot of places out of the area to see if it's per store, but.
And are you guilty then of breaking CPL law if you go into a place that has a signage?
Well, you shouldn't do it. You're breaking their.
It's actually trespassing.
Yeah, you're breaking their.
Yeah,
you're breaking their rules.
You're breaking their rules, so then you're trespassing at that time. So. And
of course, you can't carry in public as a minor, so be over 18. But you have to be over 18 to get your CPL. So.
I should be over 21 to get your CPL now.
Really?
You can't legally own a handgun in Michigan under 21. Okay. That did change recently too.
But that's not listed on here, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But there's no ages listed on here that I've seen.
Yeah.
So, and then, I lost my train of thought.
Right.
Obviously, you can't have a concealed weapon or an unconcealed weapon with the intent to hurt somebody. Like, so that it's for self-protection. It is not for like an intentional weapon. You shouldn't be using it as a weapon to hurt someone, of course. Brandishing firearms, this one is kind of like pulling out your weapon.
Yep. So just because there's a gun on your hip, it's not brandishing. So if I go open carry and I walk into a situation where maybe things is tense or heated and I have a gun on my hip, I'm not brandishing. Brandishing is the actual act of pulling it out, waving it, pointing it.
Well, it's interesting because that's not brandishing anymore. Brandishing isn't defined by any Michigan law, so it's kind of like that hasn't been defined in any.
No, that's kind of the general accepted.
Yeah, the idea is you're waving it around and yelling and threatening manner, but that's not like it's not actually. It's not defined by any law. But it's definitely not like brandishing if you're just carrying your handgun on your hip in a public setting. Even if it is tense, that's not brandishing.
Yeah.
And then transporting firearms. This one is weird because with a CPL, you can carry it on your hip in the car.
In the car.
But if you don't have a CPL, you have to have it locked up in the trunk, and the ammo has to be separate. Like it shouldn't be with it.
Yeah, it can't be in the clip. It can't be. That one gets weird quick. But yes, you can't have loaded clips in your car. So
that one gets odd.
Yep.
The transporting your firearms, and even if you have a CPL, transporting like if we don't live too far from a state border. If we were to drive across the state border, we would want to make sure we know all the laws for the other state as well as ours, because you don't want to do something wrong by accident.
Yeah, by omission.
And not knowing the law is not an excuse for breaking the law. So you still want to make sure. I don't think we've ever carried concealed when we've gone across the border.
No, I try not to. We can in a lot of the states that we can cross into, but it's just not worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so much to look into and so much to review. Some of them are like follow your state's laws.
Yep.
There's a couple that are kind of like that, but then some of them have very specific, like can't be here, can't do this, can't carry it like that, and so it can be confusing. It's really important to read that, especially if you're like planning on carrying and you have, you know, a 4, 5, 6 state trip that you're gonna go on and you're gonna be gone for a week or two. It's important, even if you're not planning on carrying concealed and you're transporting firearms, look into the laws, because carrying firearms across different borders is there's rules, there's
It can
laws
get
to
tense.
know.
It can get tense.
You should always know what you're transporting or how you're transporting them. As long as you're doing it for a lawful purpose, I don't think anybody's going to get.
That could get squishy quick.
Yeah, you know, if you're going for hunting or target practice, it's obviously fine.
But,
If it needs to be fixed, if you're taking it to like a gun shop for repair, moving it from one home to another, I suppose. Like if
Yeah.
you have a summer home or a summer cottage, you can do that. Now I don't think this is required anymore, but when I got my first gun, I think I actually had to take it into the local police
be
station
inspected, yes.
to be inspected. I got my first handgun, and that had to be inspected. So obviously, you can transport it,
Yep,
you
to
know,
the police.
to
for
the police
firearms
station.
inspection.
Gun show or whatever for show. You can take it there. Obviously, a public shooting facility, public land, of course. all
Yeah,
those.
technically, in the state of Michigan, you can't just leave a gun in your car and drive around doing all your daily errands for multiple days in a row without a CPL. If you're a CPL, you can then carry it. But in general, like if I want to just leave a hunting rifle in my car, well, unless I'm going to the range or going hunting or going to get it fixed, I technically can't just leave.
What about the ones that have it like mounted on their cars?
Yeah, a lot of those are actually what are called wall hangers. They're fake.
Really?
Yeah, or they have really good reasons as to why they have a gun, because you technically aren't supposed to just have.
Well, I could see, like, especially some of the roads here. I mean, we've hit 2 deer.
Yep.
I could see how it could be like, that's justified, having something to deal with a deer that you hit.
Right.
Because, oh my goodness, and it's horrible when you have to watch them suffer because you don't have a weapon to
Yep, the CPL really does kind of fix that and alleviate that, and I think it all really depends on like what you have and who pulls you over. But yes, technically in the state of Michigan, you can't just leave a gun in your car 24/7, 365 days a year. If you do have a gun in your car and you don't have a CPL, you need to this needs to be purpose driven. Now, a lot of guys could just say, well, I was going to go to the range afterwards, so,
yeah.
you know, but.
But then it still needs to be unloaded. It
Well,
needs to
yeah,
be
oh,
locked
it's
up in a
properly
case.
stored.
It needs to be stored properly. It can't be just out.
Yeah.
So you can't just have it there.
Correct.
But, and I think I've seen where you have like locked cases in your car, so that if you don't want to carry, like you can't take it into a specific
Yeah.
store, you can lock it in the car, which I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think just even if the car's locked, it's not. I mean, I know it's secure, but it's not secure.
Yep.
So I'll let you.
Oh, you done reading now?
I jumped
you
a page and a
did.
half carrying.
I know,
concealed
you kept-
weapons.
You just kept going, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to let you just keep going with it, so.
Well, I did read through all of it like a couple of times to make sure I had it down.
I know, that was cool. You
Because
did-
some of it is confusing. Legalese is not like always clear.
Yep. Well, and this is one of the ones, so, let's say, quiz you, see if you know the answer,
Why do you have to quiz me?
because you gave me the paper.
You always put me on the spot. It's not nice.
I do, it's all good. Let's say you're going to a local university. You have your concealed carry firearm. You need to go into the building. And they have signs that say, no firearms on my property, including the parking lot. Are you allowed to unload your firearm, put it in the trunk of your car, locked up, of course, or are you in the breach of laws or trespassing?
I think that would be trespassing, but technically, if you have your CPL, I think you could leave it in the trunk, but I'd probably park somewhere else. Like, just to be on the safe side, like, that's me. I would rather walk, like, an extra, 100 yards and not have to worry about it. Like, not be concerned about it. So I would probably park somewhere else and leave my gun in the car, but.
Yep. So actually, and this was actually tried in Michigan court, the parking lot is considered a public place of any institution. So you can actually go ahead, unload your firearm, lock it in your car in a university, school, synagogue, church.
Well, it makes sense. If you have it with you and you're concealed carrying and you can't take it in the building with you, where else are you supposed to leave it? I guess you could just not go, but.
Yeah, you could just not go.
You could just not go. Or you could do what I would do, which is probably park somewhere else. Because mostly I just wouldn't want the hassle of okay, somebody saw me offloading it and now they're kind of freaked out, and campus security is great and all, but they have a lot going on.
Well, a lot of them are rent-a-cop types that think they know a lot. And I only know this one for sure because there was a university, or college, or whatever, higher institution of learning. They were really big about even our parking lots are firearms free. And I had to go there, and I had my concealed carry, and I unloaded it and put it in the trunk like I'm supposed to, locked it up. And the person I was meeting with saw that, and they let me have it. That no, this is, even our parking lots are weapons free, and I had to explain to them that that's not a thing. That the parking lot is actually a public space. You're not trespassing till you enter the building. So I actually did the legal right thing. They even talked to someone else at the university. I don't know if it was a lawyer or their lawyer. I provided them with the information about the court case that was heard and held. And they were found to be wrong that yes, I could be in their parking lot, I can unload my handgun, lock it up, and that is not trespassing at that time. That is actually fine. But again, like you said, you're going to end up getting in
just a hassle.
Yeah, hassle. Let's see, is there anything else good on this paper here? Oh, what is considered concealed?
Well, so it has to be visible from 3 sides to be open carry. So conceal is anytime it's not visible from at least 3 sides.
3 sides.
So and that means that you can't possibly carry open carry in a vehicle because you can't see it from 3 sides.
Yep.
Which is why if you don't have your CPL, you cannot have your weapon in your vehicle because it's considered concealed if it can't be seen from 3 sides. So if you have a weapon on your hip and it can be seen from 3 sides reasonably, then it's open carry and not concealed. But if you want to throw your coat on over top of yourself, that's concealed carry. And even if you can see it from 2 sides or 1 side, it's still concealed carry, which is why you need your CPL.
So what does it mean? Like I carry mine on my hip. What does it mean when it says 3 sides?
You have to be able to see it from 3 different sides. So if it's on your hip, you can see it from the front, the back, and whatever side you're on, the hip side. But obviously you couldn't see it from directly opposite where you're at.
So even if I carried it behind my back, I don't know why I would, but
that'd be hard.
You can see it from the left, the right, and you can see it from behind. You can't necessarily see it from the front, but it is still 3 sides.
It has to be visible from 3 sides, though.
Yeah, and fully, so you can't tuck the barrel inside your pants and just have the grip out.
See, that's always confused me because fully is questionable when it's in a holster because you can't see the barrel in some
True, but
holsters.
you can definitely see
But
the
you
whole
know
holster.
what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that one gets weird. The tucking it in your.
Well, because there's some holsters that are actually inside inner pant holsters.
Yep.
But then of course you would just like honestly having your CPL would just make more sense. Like, and for most carry options, having your CPL just makes more sense. Unless you're using like rifles and shotguns, having your CPL, like if you're cold, you don't have to worry about if it gets covered up.
Yep.
If you want to wear a sweater or like.
Well, that's one of the reasons I actually pursued mine in the first place is because like when I'd go hunting, I like to have a handgun on my hip just in case. But you know when I was walking around the woods.
You either have to have your coat like way
Yep.
up on one side so that it's definitely visible, or your coat is going to and even if you try that, your coat can drift down. Like
Your coat can drift down, but even like when I sit down, it's like I'm gonna sit in front of a tree. That firearm's not only visible from two sides, so it gets kind of squishy. Or if I want to get in a car or even sit down inside my hunting blind, if I'm on public land and I sit down in a chair with my handgun on my side, there's actually a case to be made. I was talking to a DNR officer about this. He's like, there's a case to be made that you are carrying concealed unless you have a permit. We're going to have some words. So that was one of the reasons that I actually first went and got my CPL, or really started pursuing it. I'm like, well, this is something for when I'm hunting. It would be really good to have. Just to cover my bases.
It's just more convenient. For carry options alone, if you want to carry a handgun, it just makes sense to have your CPL. Like, it's just because there's a lot of times you wear one thing out and yep, your gun is probably completely visible if you're wearing a certain outfit, but if you get cold or if you have to change or if like even if you add something to your attire, like you throw on another sweater, it's hard to show.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of this rest of this stuff actually just deals with out-of-state carry, and then it kind of actually goes into more detail from the first page. So, unless you can see anything else you want to cover from the list. I mean, I definitely enjoy my CPL. It's definitely something I'm going to keep up. I enjoy being able to have that option to carry concealed, but I don't mind carrying open. There's a lot of nuance and a lot of debate actually held in the gun community about carrying open. I even had a guy stop me in Family Dollar, or it wasn't Family Dollar, it was
I don't even remember.
yeah, we were in some, I forget what store we were in. And
Honestly, I think it was a Big Lots.
It wasn't Big Lots, it was that
Goodwill.
place. Goodwill. Yep, it was a Goodwill. Guy stopped me in there, talked to me, and tried to educate me, and I educated him a bit. But yeah, he got kind of on my case about open carrying. And yeah, I think I answered his question sufficiently that he realized why I was. Mostly because with a full frame 45, it's very hard to carry concealed wearing shorts. And at the time and the stuff going on, I really wanted to have my weapon of choice easily available. So anything jumping out at you, I wasn't going to go into the out-of-state stuff because, well, we're in the state. You're going to this video because you live out of state and you want to learn about carrying your handgun within the state, I recommend you study that part of the law.
No, I mean, I think we covered most of it. There are some provisions for like community colleges and universities. Because if you have a CPL, some of those places you can still open carry. And I think this number changed in an entertainment facility that has a seating capacity of 2,500 or more.
Yeah,
you can't carry concealed. I thought it was a different number.
Nope, it's
when
2,500.
we took CPL, but
Nope, 2,500.
and then like if you're obviously we homeschool, so this is not an issue for us. But if you happen to be carrying concealed and you're trying to drop your kid off or pick them up from school, you need to take the weapon out in the parking lot, leave it in your locked car, and go into the school. You don't want to carry it concealed or open carry in a school. It's just don't
A little taboo right now.
Just don't. Like some of that stuff is just don't. Like why?
Right.
Like obviously like you may not be doing anything wrong, but why put anybody through that kind of like scare or fear? Like that it don't. Like that responsible gun ownership is what keeps the rights going. So be responsible.
Well, not responsible, but I'd say respectful.
Respectful.
Like, yes, can you carry a long barreled AR style rifle, open carry, in a lot of these locations? Yes, you can. Should you go to Applebee's with a, the full?
Does it need to be a 30-inch barrel? I mean, really? Yeah, like actually, there's a listing in there that non-residents can carry a 30-inch barrel. Like that's a really long barrel.
You can carry a rifle. So that was a big thing actually about 6 years ago. Guys were going to like Applebee's with long barrel rifles.
And honestly, as a gun owner and as somebody who actually does, like, I enjoy shooting. I like our guns. I don't mind them in any regards. But I wouldn't want to go to an eating establishment and see that. Like, that would make me nervous as a responsible gun owner.
Well, that's the whole point. You're not doing it for safety or tactical awareness, or you're doing it to get an emotional response, and it's getting the wrong one, and it's giving off the wrong one.
Well, that's
you're
not
right.
a good message.
It is your right. It's legal to do, but
but it's not a good message to send.
Yeah.
Like that's just silly.
Yeah, it's poor optics.
So and honestly, if you're out and about and like say you were all out at the range and you were all shooting, fine. Put it in the car. Like
the worst part is for long guns, you can't carry those concealed, so they would have had to have been locked up in the car when you're coming home from the range.
Well, and I do think that there was one case where there were, I want to say teenagers, but they must have been older, where they had walked to their shooting location. Mm-hmm. And on their way back, they stopped to get a drink or food or something. And so they had walked like 2 miles or 3 miles. And so they didn't have a safe place to store the weapons, which meant they needed to keep them on their person. Honestly, to me, that says run into the Quick Mart, you leave the guns with one person or 2 people outside, somebody goes in and grabs all the drinks and the food, you come outside, you eat. I would not.
Or clearly you don't live that far away. Go home, drop it off.
Yeah.
And you go out and get. Yeah, then there are situations, I'm not going to disagree, but
I'm sure it happens, but at the same time, like if you're going shooting, you're going shooting. Like it's not like it's suddenly like, oh, a gun appeared and I'm going to go shooting. You have to plan that.
Yep.
So like, why wouldn't you plan that into your?
Right. And that's where it gets squishy, because yes, it is your right to open carry. I respect that. I understand that, but still. The reason you're doing it is to get some sort of response.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's not what the gun movement needs. It's just a cringy response, because you can do it, doesn't mean you should do it. But anyway, we're going on about 45 minutes here. I think we've proven in our, talking back and forth that we've definitely spent quite a few hours studying this stuff, looking it up. We've definitely been to the range. We meant to get some pictures when we were at the range, but oh well. I was going to tag those in this video, but I think we're getting it long enough and whatnot. So anyway, folks, again, we are not lawyers. This is not legal advice. This is our understanding, reading, and studying. Check out links, do your own research. You'll kind of notice a scrawling text that'll pop up from time to time confirming that we are not lawyers. This is not legal advice. Just kind of us having some proof that we did our
And
due
don't,
diligence.
if you're not sure about anything that it says, that like this is from the Michigan State Police, call the Michigan State Police or stop in and ask them. They would much rather answer your questions
Right.
when you don't, like when you're not certain about something. Trust me, they would rather talk to you and answer your questions than find you doing something wrong.
Right.
Like call them and ask for clarification, ask for examples, ask for whatever, because they would happily answer those and address those questions. They're not going to get frustrated or angry. It would be much better to call the state police and just explain that you're confused by it. Could they please explain it again? Because it is possible to not understand some of the wording here, but they would like always
And
ask.
some of the laws do seem to contradict. We kind of talked about there's some really squishy, like, so I can't carry concealed in a church, but if my friend from, Texas comes who has this concealed carry, he can? Like, what
Well,
does that
some
mean?
of it could be I can't carry concealed, but I can carry open carry in these places. So, like, yeah, if you have a question, don't hesitate to call the state police. If it's something that you're going to run into or you think you're going to run into, call and ask the question.
Ask the question.
They would always rather answer your questions than run into a
Don't
situation.
trust Reddit. Don't trust the internet. Don't trust the Googles. Actually, talk to the officers because they're the arbiters of the law in the field, the first line of defense, the ones who will be making the judgment calls out there. So might as well hear what they have to say. So, okay, folks, I think we're gonna end it here. Yeah, hope everyone's staying safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one.